Greetings and welcome to this mini video series where we aim to provide prospective applicants of the Switch Asia grant program with a comprehensive understanding of the program's focus and objectives. We hope that it will help you understand the broader universe of activities in which you, as successful applicants, will find yourself. Established in 2007, Switch Asia program embarked on its new Phase 3 journey in 2023. Switch Asia geographical coverage has expanded significantly and now it spans 42 countries across Asia, Middle East, and the Pacific. The primary objective of Switch Asia is to facilitate the transition of these regions towards a low-carbon, resource-efficient, and circular economy. And in doing so, Switch Asia strives to foster sustainability in supply chains and products traded within the region and between the region and Europe. To achieve these goals, we focus on sustainable consumption and production work with key polluting industries and export-led value chains within the region. This includes sectors such as food systems, textile and leather, plastics, sustainable tourism, housing, and building. The Switch Asia program global commitment to sustainability stems from the sustainability commitment of the European Union. The program seamlessly integrates with the EU Switch Asia priorities and strategies, including in the area of sustainable food systems, textile, and products. The second aspect revolves around Global Gateway, which supports the integration and resilience of value chains between our region in Asia and the Pacific and Europe. This strategic approach fosters economic stability and sustainability. By educating EU company supply chains about EU standards, the Switch Asia program ensures harmony, preventing disruptions of the supply chains and operations, while championing global alignment of activities in both of the regions. Switch Asia supporting partner countries in developing policies and industrial practices that reduce environmental and carbon footprints while aligning with international agreements such as Paris Agreement. Within the Switch Asia program, there are two key components. First is grant scheme component, which supports sustainable consumption and production projects in the countries. The projects are collaborative projects involving EU, Asia, and the Pacific Consortia. The primary objectives is to test and promote sustainable consumption and production practices among micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises and consumers and consumer organizations. The calls for proposals are launched every second or third year. The outcomes of grant projects play a pivotal role in informing policy dialogues, technical assistance, and capacity building activities supported by the second component of Switch Asia, which is called Policy Support Component. Policy Support Component focuses on designing and improving national and regional policies and regulatory frameworks in the area of sustainable consumption and production and circular economy. And among other things, it also includes effort to incorporate industrial concerns into nationally determined contributions and facilitate discussions with financial institutions and investors to scale up sustainable practices across the region. These two components work together to drive positive change and advance sustainability in the Asia and the Pacific region. At the previous stage of the program, between 2018 and 2022, 45 policy advisory projects were delivered on the request of the regional governments, actually on the request of the national governments. In this phase, the Switch Asia policy support component adopts a new regional approach, focusing on achieving key objectives through technical assistance in sustainable consumption and production and SDG 12 policy advisory, policy dialogues, and through supporting SCP policy implementation. Policy support is offered for the development of regional and national SCP action plans, establishment of green public procurement systems, aiding governments and SDG 12 monitoring and reporting. Those are few examples of the potential technical assistance which is supported by the policy support component. The program also brings together issues of material use and climate change, for example, by assisting governments in integrating SCP targets into their national determined contributions, or by ensuring compliance with key environmental agreements. The program fosters policy dialogues, strengthening relations between policymakers and stakeholders in the EU and the region, and driving sustainability policy forward. By the end of the previous phase, by the end of 2022, 43 grant projects were operational in the Asian region, implementing SCP measures in a variety of sectors, including agri-food, textile, housing and building, tourism, and with respect to particular materials such as plastic. The grant projects worked at different aspects of circular economy by substituting input in their production processes with materials that are renewable and or less harmful, or working on resource efficiency and resource circularity. They worked at different stages of supply chain, employing innovations in technology, process organization, and in business models. They often play a role of important stakeholders in developing policies in the area of sustainable consumption and production, and in various countries that serve as champion of SCP practices in exchanges among these countries. Last but not least, communication is a game changer in the transition to sustainability. With over 500,000 followers on social media in just 4 year time, the program has reached its SCP content more than 50 million people in Asia. In this new phase, the Switch Asia policy support component will act as a coordinator in all communication and knowledge activities of the program, including raising the visibility of the new grant projects efforts, achievements, and impacts. And capacity building webinar will also be organized in order to support grant projects communication on how to most effectively work together to raise the visibility of your work in both Asia and Europe. We hope that information provided here brings clarity to your understanding of the Switch Asia program. And we invite you to explore further details of our website and through our social media channels, which will provide even greater insights into the program objectives and opportunities. We look forward to welcoming grant applicants like you into our vibrant and committed Switch Asia community, where sustainability and collaboration certainly thrive.
This is Lorraine Gatlabayan from the Switch Asia Policy Support Component, and I will be presenting an overview on sustainable consumption and production and its linkages to the circular economy to achieve the SDGs. The current and sustainable patterns of consumption and production that prevail throughout the world today are dependent on extracting, processing, using, and disposing of an ever-increasing amount of natural resources from the planet, and causing ever-increasing environmental damage. Despite decades of warnings, the amount of materials used in production and consumption continues to rise at the global level, with more materials being used and less efficiently. If business as usual continues, global resource extraction will increase 110% by 2060. As a consequence, today's unsustainable patterns of consumption and production are driving the three planetary crises we are currently facing: climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution and waste. There are ways to decouple environmental impacts and resource use from economic growth, while avoiding burden shifting between countries, generations, and trade-offs between impact categories in life cycle stages. Decoupling refers to the ability of an economy to grow without corresponding increases in environmental pressure. It means decoupling economic growth from resource consumption, which is resource decoupling, and from environmental impacts, which is impact decoupling. Innovative opportunities are needed to ensure better delivery of services and access to resources in a way that conserves natural resource base while ensuring improvements to well-being. In this case, resource efficiency strategies should be complemented by resource productivity. Sustainable consumption and production, or SCP, is about fulfilling the needs of all while using less resources, including energy and water, and producing less waste and pollution. Sustainable consumption production is a holistic approach to minimize the negative environmental impacts from consumption and production systems while promoting quality of life for all. SCP aims at doing more and better with less, increasing net welfare, gains from economic activities by reducing resource use, degradation, and pollution along the whole life cycle while increasing quality of life. Sustainable consumption and production must consider the entire value chain of goods and services through life cycle thinking, a systematic analysis of drivers and barriers to sustainability along the different stages of the value chain. The SCP life cycle approach considers the impacts from all life cycle stages of the production and consumption processes. This depicts entry points in mainstreaming SCP in policy and practice, not only on greening the supply chain from the production side, but also having the opportunity on shaping market demand and the environmental impacts of consumption. SCP is very much linked to circular economy. This concept refers to an economy that reduces the consumption of resources and the generation of waste, and reuses and recycles waste throughout the production, distribution, and consumption processes. This approach shifts the model of production and consumption, highlighting extension of the life cycle of products. SCP cuts across many different sectors and requires the engagement of numerous stakeholders along the global value chain, including businesses, consumers, policymakers, researchers, scientists, retailers, media, and development cooperation agencies, among others. It requires collaboration between multiple areas and levels within government to develop, implement, monitor, and evaluate successful SCP policy instruments that support the use of SCP tools along the value chain. Given the broad scope and challenges of shifting established patterns of consumption and production, collaboration among various stakeholders at different levels of governance and across sectors has been very instrumental towards meeting SCP objectives. The concept of SCP has been in the forefront in the political agenda as an important enabler towards achievements of the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. With the adoption of SDG 12, ensuring sustainable consumption and production, there's an opportunity to embed SCP as a systems-wide goal for all societies, with the recognition that key drivers and solutions lie in our economic, financial, and governance decision-making. SDG 12 has 11 targets and 13 indicators to measure progress, covering topics such as food waste, resource efficiency, green economy, chemicals and waste management, and corporate sustainability. Some of the benefits of SDG 12 include reducing greenhouse gas emissions, saving cost, enhancing competitiveness, improving health and well-being, and preserving biodiversity and ecosystem. Besides SDG 12, SCP is also recognized as an enabler that can help achieve the other SDG goals towards restoring and maintaining the health of the natural resource base as a necessary condition for eradicating poverty and sustaining economic progress for all. Therefore, application of SCP policies require cross-sectoral collaboration among key actors at all levels of governance to monitor material flows and steer socioeconomic transition towards the SDGs. A systematic approach and cooperation among actors operating in the supply chain from producer to final consumer is needed on implementing the SDGs. Achieving SCP and circular economy will require a holistic and integrated systems approach characterized by increased resource use efficiency and reduced pollution over product life cycles and along supply chains, increased investments in efficient, clean, and safe industrial production methods through public policies and private sector action, and lastly, consumer choice, favoring more resource efficient and environmentally friendly products towards sustainable lifestyle. That is why solutions will require technical, business, and policy innovation across the whole product lifecycle, as well as reform of financial instruments for the transition to resource-efficient economies, as will policy learning, capacity building, and knowledge sharing. Pathways of change towards SCP goals may take multiple routes, from mainstreaming policy changes, large-scale investments or incentive schemes, to innovation in niches of production and or consumption, which may be scaled up after establishing initial success. The transition to SCP depends upon concerted and aligned efforts across the world and from all parts of society, with policy, finance, business, communities, and individuals working together at the global, national, and local level. There is a need to continually share experiences and draw lessons on the challenges and achievements in developing and implementing SCP policies and supporting SCP practices, building capacity to increase knowledge, understanding of, and action on SCP, thereby contributing to developing sustainable and resilient value chains. Continuous cooperation is needed to access finance and to build capacity, particularly on implementing SCP policies, supporting stakeholders, particularly SMEs, to adopt SCP practices, and consumers to raise their awareness towards sustainable lifestyle. Leadership support is therefore required at several levels, and Switch Asia looks forward to this prospective collaboration with partners.
Hello everyone, greetings from Cambodia. My name is Mahfouzur Rahman. I work for Global Green Growth Institute as a project manager of a project called Switch Garment. Switch Garment project is being jointly implemented by GGGI, JRS, and TAFTEC. And it is, of course, funded by European Union Switch Asia Grants Program. This is a 4-year project. Switch Garment project is aiming to look into the energy profile of Cambodian garments industries. So we look into the policy aspects, we look into the monitoring and verification of the energy profile of the sustainable energy intervention implementation. We also conducted 50 energy audits. We aim to train 200 factory employees within this idea of sustainable energy in Cambodia. And now in the final year, this is the 4th year of the project, we are focusing on designing a financing scheme, which we believe to enhance better access to finance for the garments industries and also for the energy service providers. Those are operating here in Cambodia. Today, I'll be sharing our experience. The first thing is, what could be the recommendation for the future projects, how they can leverage better policy and strategy impact while implementing or designing the project for future implementation. The first thing that we have learned is when we talk about policy, we, of course, it's a primary need that we need to be really focusing on the existing policy landscape. We need to have the detailed know-how of the national policy context, in our case, the energy policy landscape. And then we need to identify where the policy gap, where we can actually contribute. For us, it was the energy profile or energy-related policy intervention, the policy gap, with a focus from the industry. That was the garments industry here in Cambodia. And then we knew that there is a national energy efficiency policy being developed. So we kept that in mind in the background while we were developing a specific policy tool for the garments industries. So we did not aim to create another national policy tool. What we did, we focused on the garments industries. We created a policy of the regulatory tool, which we call Model Green Factory Program, that will not be driven by the national entity, but by a garments association here in Cambodia. And then when the national energy efficiency policy will come and will be implemented, which is now being approved, so it will take a few years to be implemented on the ground. In the meantime, our policy tool, with the support from the association, will already be warming up the industries so that they can make themselves up to the speed to catch up the requirements which will be coming from this national level energy efficiency policy. So looking at the national policy context is a key. The second thing is the partnership. So we need to know who are the key stakeholders, who are the primary stakeholders, and who are the secondary key stakeholders for the specific project. So we need to know, we need to do the detailed stakeholder mappings, and then we need to identify the right partners. Right partners are always key, specifically when we develop the project proposals. To get the government or the public buy-in, first of all, is really important. We need to do the detailed consultations and then enter into the partnership. So if we find the right partner, it will be really helpful for the future projects to implement and make a bigger impact when it comes to the policy and strategical impact. For our case, we had a very good partner in the form of Ministry of Environment and Ministry of Industry, Science, Technology, and Innovation here in Cambodia. And for our project implementation as a consortium partner, the Garments Association helped a lot using their network when we went into the middle to implement our project. The next thing is, if we look back, what we could have done a bit better to have a bigger impact. The first thing comes into our mind is the national buy-in. So the thing is, we actually involved the national counterparts into all different steps, but we learned as we implemented our project that it could have been even stronger. So involving the public counterpart, the government counterpart at the very early stage of the project design, not waiting for the call for proposal, if that is practical, starting to engage the national counterparts into the proposal development, getting their buy-in as soon as we start writing the proposal would be very, very key and important. And then we also need to do the detailed consultation starting from the project design, not after submission of the project proposal to the donor. And then always keeping them informed that what is coming up, what is the status, and what is the modification that is being made, so that we know what is the actual demand from the government counterpart, who would be the ultimate beneficiary of the project. So that is one thing we learned that we could have done better. The another thing is the gender and social component of the project. So initially, there was no specific indicators that we had to achieve in terms of gender and social component. But then after the second year of the project, we changed the log frame. We added the indicator of the gender and social component. So the main thing is, before even developing the proposal, we need to give the importance to take or to have the national or the government buy-in in the first place. And also we could have done a bit better in terms of looking into the gender and social component of our Switch Garment project. That can also be helpful information for the future grant projects. Now the question is how the future grants project can not only succeed in making the application successful, but can create the biggest impact. The first thing that from our project we learned is, once you do the policy landscape analysis and have right partnerships, which we talked about earlier, you need to define clearly the problem statement. Once it is done, it has to be topped up with a very detailed work plan, which has to be, again, flexible. during COVID, we learned that the flexibility of the work plan is really important so that it can actually accommodate the sudden shocks that it will experience during the implementation period. So learning about the clear problem statement and flexible work plan is important. And the second thing is thinking beyond the project period, thinking about the sustainability and having a clear exit plan is really, really important. It's one of the biggest important key factors which will help in getting the application successful and also have the biggest impact. For our case, we have developed a policy tool that we call Model Gigafactory Program that will be led by the private entity, which is called the Association of the Garments Industries. They will be leading this Model Gigafactory Program beyond the project period. We conducted 50 energy audits, which will be handed over to the Ministry of Environment and Ministry of Industries, who are our government counterparts. These 50 energy audits will help the ministries to implement the national energy efficiency policies that they are planning to implement since it is now approved. Then the training programs that we have developed will be actually offered by the Cambodian Garments Training Institute with the help of the Garments Association as one of their standard training offering. So that will be there even beyond the project period. And as we spoke about the financing scheme, that will of course be there beyond the project period, being delivered by the local financial institutions or other development financial institutions. All in all, the Garments Association will be responsible to lead all the efforts that we have done in the last 3 years and or will do in the next 1 year of our project period, bringing the partners in the same page and then implement the Model Gigafactory Program as a holistic program. So thinking about sustainability is always important. And then looking at the practical challenges and the need for beneficiaries is also important. That is one of our unique learning and the experience that we have gathered from the Switch Government project. For example, there are few factors which are not entirely related to energy, which have a very big impact on implementation of the energy interventions. For example, most of the garments industries here in Cambodia are leased. So their building is leased, so they don't own the building. So if you want to do a solar rooftop on top of the solar rooftop, then you need to get the permission of the facility owner. And if you don't own the facility, it is not so comfortable for the financial institution to extend the financial support. That's one thing. Another thing is the contract or the agreement between the factory and the buyer. That is also an important factor. If a factory does not have a long-term contract, then it cannot actually commit in long-term investment, which could be an installation of the solar panel, which can give you energy over the period of 20 years. So these are the things that are outside the box and outside our project scope, but still can have impact on the implementation of the project activities. So looking beyond the project scope is important. That can also be done even before developing the project proposal in consultation of the key stakeholders. This is our communication slide. So whenever if you need any information, you can always go through this site and contact with us. We will be very much helpful to extend our support or information if it is required. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jana, and I work as country director at the Caritas Czech Republic in Mongolia. In the past 5 years, I have worked on 3 different Switch Asia projects, 2 as a lead implementer and 1 as a project partner. Developing, implementing, and working on the Switch Asia projects has been a great experience for me, and I am honored to share it with you now. So what is my Switch Asia experience? The first project that I worked on was on construction and demolition waste. It was implemented between 2016 and 2020. The main target sectors were construction and demolition sectors. As the main achievements, We have organized training and awareness-raising activities for more than 4,000 participants in all 21 provinces of Mongolia. We have developed the first construction and demolition waste product that is economically and technically feasible in Mongolia. We have developed a university curriculum and online and classroom training platforms. We have developed, implemented, and approved the first legal procedure on the construction and demolition waste management. We have developed 7 different studies in the construction and demolition waste sector that are being used by today. And we have successfully adapted the EU policies in Mongolia. The second project that is still ongoing is called the Sustainable Plastic Recycling in Mongolia, or shortly SPRIM project. It started in 2020, and we are in the last year of project implementation. The target sectors are waste management and recycling. What we have achieved so far: we have developed plastic waste collection schemes. We have organized CSOs trainings and awareness-raising activities. We have come up with policy recommendations to improve the legal framework in Mongolia. We have organized 2 study tours and on-the-job training in Europe. We have come up with new plastic recycling products in Mongolia. Our project partners have established a new waste management facility at SUM level. We have organized capacity building training programs for MSMEs, and we are in the process of approving and implementing new plastic-related standards. And the third project, together with the rest of the team and rest of the partners we have developed from the scratch, is called Switching on the Green Economy, or shortly SOGE project. It started in 2022. It will continue until 2026. The main target sectors are agri-food and beverage sectors. What are our objectives? The first, and maybe the most important objective, is of course to reduce CO2 emissions, to adopt green practices by MSMEs and consumers, to increase efficiency and reduce operating costs for MSMEs, to make sure that the standard certification procedure for eco-labels is in place, to come up with policy recommendations and improve standards in Mongolia, to train and teach environmentally conscious consumers and business leaders, and to establish a financial sustainable eco-label certification platform. Speaking from my experience as a project developer and project manager of 3 Switch Asia projects, I would recommend future grant applicants to include these 2 approaches in your strategy. The first is think beyond the project implementation period, and the second, leave no one behind. While projects last several years, our utmost objective is to make a long-lasting impact and prepare a ground for others to scale up the good practices in other sectors and regions. Formulate it as your vision. Organize brainstorming sessions with your core team, support staff as well as other stakeholders to share your vision and nudge them to think beyond the time frame of the project documents. The common vision is a good reminder of the world we are creating through our projects. Leave no one behind. The most vulnerable are often forgotten while working on any policy and strategic documents. Ensure their active participation, have regular communication and meetings, create a bridge between them and policymakers. No single individual or community should be left behind or not discussed with, as any new or improved policies and long-term strategies will have a tremendous implication on their future and on their lives. People with disabilities, people living in poverty, minorities, children, and many other groups affected by the project should be involved in every step of the project implementation, especially policymaking. I have designed 2 Switch Asia projects from the start, and there are many lessons learned to consider. Dive deep into the problem. Bring the best experience from other countries, but always consider local conditions and have a stakeholders map. While it might seem simple to answer essential questions, such as why there is so much construction and demolition waste in Mongolia, or why there is so much plastic waste in Mongolia in comparison with other Asian countries, the answers can be sometimes surprising. Therefore, it is of utmost importance to collect data, both primary and secondary, and to do a very good and detailed research to propose tangible and sustainable results. Bring the best experience from other countries, but always consider local conditions. Even the most innovative as best solutions do not have to be suitable considering different local conditions and contexts. Do not propose solutions and simple answers to burning questions without discussing them with local stakeholders and especially the ones who will eventually implement them. Not every Spartan solution is implementable locally. Have a stakeholders map. Consider and ensure the active participation of all stakeholders, partners, and communities already in the project writing process. This approach will ensure the local ownership of everyone involved. How to create the biggest impact? Success is great, but creating the biggest impact is even better. First, imagine a world you want to live in. Second, listen to everyone, but don't get discouraged. While it might sound like a cliché, our objective is to help create the world we want to live in. The grant enables us to innovate and do things differently. The project is one piece of a big puzzle, and our aim is not to save the world, but rather contribute to the overall success of all the initiatives. Create new partnerships, think beyond the project scope, and don't be afraid to bring unorthodox ideas while keeping your feet on the ground. Listen to everyone, but don't get discouraged. Switch Asia projects bring innovation and thinking out of the box. Not everyone is keen to change or question status quo. It is crucial to have an honest and straightforward discussion with all the stakeholders. However, any discouraging opinions should not dismay your ideas, implementation of innovative solutions, and everyday hard work to create a better environment for everyone. It was a great honor and privilege to share my experience with all of you. I want to thank you for your attention, and please do not hesitate to get in touch with me or with my team. We'll be very happy to help you with your project proposals as much as we can. We want to wish you good luck with your proposals, and please remember to be the change you want to see in the world. Thank you and good luck.